Hello! Welcome, folks, to a Toonkind 12 FPS episode. Um, Normally our main host, Ike, for these type of things, is not available today. So instead, it's just mainly me and my friend here.
Hello, everyone. It's your lovely fellow player and co host, Mikey, also known as Mike, and I will be playing with Cookie today on the 12 FPS A Personal Reflection, playing as Belle, usually
And,
known as the nickname Scratch.
and I'll be playing as Vanier. So shall we start the ball going? Is it the things?
We shall? Who would like to get the starter going? Would you like to, or do you want me to?
Uh, I don't real. Well, Vanier would probably just be wandering around the house mostly before you show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's probably best for you to uh start things off.
All right. So, we're going to call him Scratch for the time being because Oogie doesn't know his actual name yet. Scratch has wanted to schedule a conversation with Ollie for a while regarding some questions and certain topics. However, there's been a bit of off and on business going on, so scheduling has been a bit rough. Today, he was meant to go and discuss with Ollie regarding some things, so he decided to head to the manor, presumably on appropriate schedule, to try and find him. But doesn't. The car is not parked, so it's not there. Clearly, he's not present. But maybe somebody could tell him what's going on if he looks around the manor. So he's gonna look around, and I'm gonna. Do you want me to roll investigation for that? See if he finds
Are you
Vanier.
um did you knock at the door?
On the one hand, he's intelligent enough that he should. On the other hand, this is also Ollie's house, and he might develop the habit of just let me roll him a check. Let's see if he actually decides to knock. Because it's either he knocks like a sensible person, or he does his instinctual thing and just decides doors. Who needs 'em? Intelligence is a +2. Please, homie, please have a brain cell. We're going to say that's good enough. A 10 is decent. That was
Okay.
close. That was way too close. He thinks about it for a minute. This is a big enough place. The door feels small in comparison, and he kind of at least knows he at least knows a little bit as to not the ground floor itself, but he knows Ollie's office probably isn't going to be immediately like right next to the front door. But at the same time, he doesn't know Ollie's manor. He knows the treehouse. He doesn't know this big expensive building. S- So instead of following his childhood instincts of breaking and entering, he's going to be polite to the old man that's been housing him and knock at the door.
Okay. After a few moments, the door will open up and there's this odd about 5 foot tall scarecrow looking. 5 or 4. I gotta double check. No, 4 foot. She's 4 foot tall. This 4 foot tall scarecrow just looking at you. Uh, Hello?
For context, Scratch is 4'8".
So she's
So
she's looking up. Yeah.
she is looking up, and he is not used to looking down at someone unless they are a small child, unless they are, very specific small children or very small toons.
Mhm.
So as Vanier looks up and sees, I'm going to roll to see whether Scratch came disguised or did not. This is a D2. She looks up and sees a black and white rubber hose swan. A perception check might note something is off, but it wouldn't look through the disguise, which is the nice beak. It's got the button up shirt and the vest. There's probably a very light blazer for the day. And actually, yeah, that would be perception or insight, depending.
Um, let's do. I'm doing insight because she
Oh, we're going right for the
has
disguise. Okay.
um because she has a +6 in insight. Oh, she,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
20.
Unless he rolled a crit on disguise kit, that would most of the disguise is rather nice and convincing enough. He actually has these feathery gloves and sleeves that help conceal his arms, and he's got these stockings and shoes that make his legs look like bird legs. He's got spats on his shoes to hide the seam where the slipper is. A
Mhm.
feathery skirt to conceal his tail and lower half. Most of it is fine, except he is he has forgotten a hat. So most of the disguise is okay, except when you look up, you notice the pointy, fuzzy ears and the 5-inch long horns. I'm pretty sure swans don't have that, but he doesn't act like this is unusual. So as Vanir says hello, he doesn't notice this and just goes, yes, hello, I'm hoping Ollie is present?
You kind of missed him. He kind of went to the
Shoot.
treehouse.
Just
Uh,
kind of stomps one of the shoes, which with your 20 on insight, you notice it doesn't make the appropriate sound that a solid bird foot should, and instead it sounds like a stuffed toy shoe, like a slipper.
uh, can I ask, um, if you need, like, him, like, to let him know about something, I can, like, get you a pen or paper or something. If you, like, I'm guessing, I have, sorry. Name's Vanier. I kind of been living with Ollie for a bit, so if you have anything to talk to him, I can pass the message along, or getting a piece of paper or something.
Hmm. Also, I realized I could turn up the computer sound. It hasn't let me do that for a while, so I can hear you now. Let me adjust the headphones so that it's not cutting me out, because I noticed I was not turning green when I should have been.
Okay.
Okay, we should be good. Well, part of it could wait for a note, but part of it I was hoping to discuss with him personally regarding some personal matters involving memory, but if he's not here,
Memory?
I he kind of gets a he kind of lifts up one of his hands in that gesture of bit of an interesting situation. Not all my head's up here at the moment. Was hoping to discuss a bit of it with him. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm not the only one who suffers from issues with memories. She
You see those tapered pointy ears just perk.
she kind of like fucking uh you know that kind of thing where you put your head against the side of the door frame, kind of like a slight uh like you're slightly hitting yourself in the head, but it's not like too forceful or something like that. It's just like a light fuck moment.
Yeah, yeah.
She's doing that.
Ah, um, I too assume you possibly also have some issues regarding your memory? And he's just kind of tilting his head curiously at this little prodding question of like, am I hearing the reaction correctly or am I misinterpreting the scene?
uh, yeah.
Oh, did you get hit by a magical trap too?
No clue entirely.
Ah, okay, so
Uh,
you have okay. That makes sense.
As far as I remember, woke up in a abandoned village and started walking.
Oh man, I wish the village I woke up in was abandoned. Probably would have avoided a lot of conflict if it was.
You
Eh.
want?
You see the beak kind of grimace and he just shakes his head.
Then you're kind of like looks at Scratch for a little bit before opening up the door a little bit wider and going, "Why not? You want to sit down for a little bit? It might be a little awkward talking out here. If you want to talk about it more."
Yeah, I suppose I could sit for a few. I don't mind. And he just sashays his way on in.
Uh, good to
And
know.
as this is the first time he's kind of in Ollie's proper rich house, he is kind of looking around with an expression of sorts. But I'm not sure if it would be easily readable or if you would need an insight to tell how he's feeling, but part of it is definitely a very clear sense of, oh yeah, no, he's rich, rich. What is this?
Vanny's gonna chime in and say, "I wouldn't poke about with the items too much. Still figuring out what doesn't turn you into things and such like that.
Oh, things turn you into things in here. Why am I not surprised?
There's a specific monkey statue that turns you into a monkey."
He almost opens his mouth to say something and then shuts it.
Also, if you see Uno deck, avoid it.
Uno deck.
Yeah, it traps you into playing Uno.
You say that, and I actually have to roll him something real quick. Uh, I'm gonna roll a physical dice for something real.
Okay.
I'm okay. It's just allergies tickle the throat. Physical dice. Do I do this as a straight roll, or do I give it advantage for certain context clues? Odds will say is straight. Evens will say is advantage. Okay, we're just doing this straight. He he gets an odd look, but he doesn't say anything about it. It's just you see the way his ears sort of they move in a very feline way, but are not fully feline. They're like a strange crossing between cat ears and bat ears,
Mhm.
but they still emote similarly. But even though they've turned towards you while talking, you mentioned the Uno deck that traps people into playing it, and I think you actually would need a little bit of insight to see if you can see whether he reacts properly to that or not, because his expression's not always the most readable,
Okay.
especially with the weird beak.
Oh, that's a nat 20.
Yeah.
That's a nat 20. Man, you're on our insight checks today. Holy shit.
Oh my god. So you can actually see the process that happens. He sort of there's almost a moment of deja vu as he's trying to think about it. You can see the gears turning. Then you see from the ears flicker and the way the eyes sort of shift. The eyes are unfortunately black and white as well. His clothing are colored, but his body itself is black and white for some reason. But you can see the moment that you know that little you know that video that's been going around about the cat that suddenly had enlightenment as it was trying to drink from a cup?
Yeah.
It's that face for a moment, and he doesn't realize you've seen it as that face sits in his face for a moment as you think he has remembered something about something like that before he just decides to shake his head and try and dismiss that thought and face altogether. It was like the thought process is, do I know something like that? That expression then went, I do, and then went, oh, I'm not saying a word about it. Oh, we're gonna ignore that. Just shakes his head like a big, you know, that one. Just cartoon
Okay.
sound.
Yeah. Vanier,
Fascinating. I'll be certain not to touch it.
yeah, no worry. Um, over here is the living room. Vanier would motion to one of the doorways in a sense of like uh leading lies.
And Belle would follow, dutifully resisting his inner childhood urges to touch and pick up. Dutifully resisting. With a nat 20, though, you could see the way that occasionally most of it is just at how rich and pretty of a house in general it is, but occasionally you could see how certain objects catch the eye, something shiny or valuable looking, and then he just has to visibly focus himself on the conversation.
Yeah.
Comes into the living room and immediately tries to just find himself a seat and not look at anything that could be appetizing.
So, how bad is your memory in the sense
It,
of things?
it's difficult to say. I mean, I've been getting bits and pieces, but they're all over the place.
Mm.
A lot I think is still missing, and while there's certainly things I've seen and recalled, mm, how do I put it? And he kind of reaches up and scratches his head. He does not realize he has left his hat. So, because for context, in the last FPS, he gave up the bowler hat for
Yeah.
a nice top hat gift from Kita. So he's not wearing it at the moment, meaning his head is just on display. He does not notice this in the slightest.
She's not gonna bring it up. She's being kind.
Yeah. I mean, uh, some of the things I've remembered are pleasant, some aren't. Sometimes I can't tell what's a memory and what's a dream. A lot of it happens in dreams and nightmares. Don't like that much. But, eh, he just shrugs. Some of it's there, some of it's not.
I haven't really remembered much at all on my end.
Huh.
Nothing. Other than just one thing, but that was due to an item that some of the guys found.
An item?
A cracked mirror of sorts.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, let me guess. Let me guess, this is EGAD. You found it on an expedition, so you donated it to a museum or something.
No, actually. We found it
No?
here.
Here.
Mm-hmm. It was this whole situation with dealing with Ollie's ex.
He gets an understanding look at his face. You don't know why, just like of oh, exes. Yeah, I get it. All right. Wait, if it was in here, then wasn't it one of those magic do not touch items, or was this like an all right item to touch?
It was definitely an alright item. It didn't do anything other than just showing like a past glimpse of you. So it was like a little show that played on the mirror. Well, I think
Hmm.
the bloody thing is still around here somewhere.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna make a roll for real quick,
I'm gonna see
and I'll
how
label
good
what it is as well.
I am gonna see if how good Vanier is with looking for a mirror, even though there's a obvious
I'm so glad it labeled which one. I
Yeah.
would have. I'm so glad that labeled
Okay,
it.
so Vanier easily finds the mirror. Holy shit. Just a note. That's another nat 20, folks.
I'm gonna start keeping track at this point. I'm gonna let me pull up a notepad document. Let me keep a scoreboard. Let's see. Vanier is Vanier, and then Scratch slash Bell. So you have 2 nat 20s so far.
Yes.
I'm just putting 2 tally marks next to Vanier's name. We're just keeping track of this for when we have to update Ike later. Of all the games to just go out the gate with 2 nat 20s, of course it's the FPS where nobody's life is in danger. But you can describe where you find the mirror first, and then we'll get into what you see when you turn around.
The mirror wasn't too hard to find because it was sitting on a table by the window. So as Vanya picks up the mirror and starts turning to walk over to show Scratch, she looks at him as she's doing so.
And Scratch looks. Well, firstly, that base roll was a 3. Homie, honey. +6 really helped you out there, but homie. Most of the conversation had at least maintained a level of ambiguous pleasantry in terms of memory relating to someone else's amnesia, and also just a little bit talking about all these struggles. It's like, yeah, it just his reactions have been like, that sounds like it's in character
Mhm.
from his nods and expressions. Again, he hasn't been able to speak to him too much, but from what little he's seen, yeah, that about tracks. Of course, he has a mirror that shows you past stuff. Of course, he's got like an Uno deck that endlessly plays. Of course. Why wouldn't he? But while he was curious about the mentions of this something, when you turn around, he's kind of fidgeting. He's You could feel the way his gaze followed your movement for a moment as you left, but at some point his gaze left you when you were busy looking for the mirror. So when you turn around, he's kind of. I'm gonna do a coin flip real quick to see if he just 1d2. If it's a 2, then I would assume it would be an Arcana or Religion roll, but eh. Okay. So he has a sort of stim that he does that doesn't always show up. See, when it comes to other characters and their stims, it's usually with the hands, sometimes it's with chewing, and you haven't seen it yet, but he does have a chewing stim. But when he's fidgeting here, he's fidgeting with a tail. Except it's not the duck tail. It's not the swan tail, clearly, because that's a feather skirt. It's not a real thing. He has, while you were not looking, reached into it, pulled out this obscenely long black spaded tail, and is fidgeting it between his hands like a Twizzler. Hasn't even noticed that you're walking over with it yet. It it's odd. With a guy who doesn't have his memory, you think he'd look maybe more excited about the prospect of seeing something, but aside from how oddly endearing this fidget is, his expression and the way his shoulders sort of have tensed in and are trying their best not to bunch into his non existent neck is nervous. And with that, I will say, since you've seen the horns, ears, and tail, you can choose either the Arcana check to figure out what he is, or the Religion check to try and figure who.
Surprisingly, Minion has a +4 in religion for some reason. So.
Huh.
Oh, she failed on that one!
I mean, I'd say even with a low roll, you can at least tell he's fiendish underneath. You have
Yeah.
no other indicator. Maybe he's a tiefling or something. You don't know.
Yeah. As she walks back, she's like, if you don't want to look at the thing, that's fine.
As soon as you start talking, you see how quickly his hands shove this admittedly cramped and crooked looking tail. It's probably been kept up in there for a while. Just shoves it right back into the feather skirt. Just smiles like the sweetest swan.
Vanier's gonna be like, it's okay, dude.
You say that. But no, I want to look. I really do. It's just.
Vanier kind of just points towards head for a slight moment, trying to give an indication.
He glances up, and you can see the way his bright, positive, pseudo friendly expression just immediately flatlines. And you can hear the way the accent fucking dips. Because as you hear, the bright, pleasant, oh, jolly good English part of the accent is a complete farce as he goes, oh, bollocks.
You're fine.
And I mean, if I don't have the hat, do you mind if I just take off the beak at least? It's way too warm after this thing.
That's fair. Go ahead.
Yeah, he just snaps it right off. Has a little invisible line on its cheeks, that way you could pull it up without seeing the thread. And he's just got this flat, black, fuzzy face underneath with this bulbous round nose and this fuzzy, crooked looking mouth. Couple of sharp teeth sticking out of it at all angles.
She doesn't really respond to it, surprisingly.
And then he just sort of sets the beak aside. There's a moment you don't even need the perception check to see the wary side glance at Vanya's response, but upon getting absolutely nothing, the tension doesn't immediately leave, but he goes, it's not that I don't want to see it, because I do. Really. I I would love to have things figured out. I piece by piece, it doesn't really matter. But it's do you get to choose what you look at?
Not that I know of.
I was afraid of that. Just
She hands over, and as she hands over the mirror, she'll make a little comment saying, "At least you look better than I do without the hat on."
I would be very hard pressed to believe that, miss.
She
No
takes,
offense.
she lifts up her hat, which part of her hair is attached to it, and you just see a gaping hole for a slight bit.
First thing, insert foot into mouth, he shuts up immediately.
Like,
Second,
hold on, I gotta fucking look at her image again because I forget which eye is missing from her.
it's the right eye. It's the right eye.
It's the right eye. Okay, yeah. Her right eye is like missing, and there's just this giant hole in her head.
So, first thing, insert foot into mouth, he shuts up. Second, he does look surprised. He does not look disgusted, disturbed, or horrified. Almost curious, actually, but mostly surprised. And then third, without really meaning to, you've never considered going to a seamstress to get that fixed? And then he immediately gets a look at his face of, why did that leave my mouth? I am
Well,
sorry? That was. Don't know where that came from.
you're fine. Truthfully, I haven't been to any other towns. I've just been walking around and such. The only place I've actually stumbled across, it happened to be Ollie's place. And before you asked, no clue about this either.
Yeah, still, sorry, jokes are habit. I did not mean for
Yeah.
that to slip in the moment. And
And
he's going to take the mirror, though he doesn't look at it yet.
the odd thing is, when I looked through the mirror on my end, my appearance was totally different. So,
How different?
I had both eyes. And they were more button-like.
I was about to say something about scarecrows generally have button eyes, but having grown up in a rural community, I realized they could look very many ways, and button eyes are not the only option.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, he's just looking over the detail and like the framing and the back of this
As you're doing that,
mirror.
she's readjusting her hat on her head once more.
I do hope you figured out what. I hope you figure out what happened up there, though, because that description sounds rather nice. Though you look rather nice now, of course.
Thanks.
I mean, you've obviously noticed one of these is, and he points up and Yeah, one of the horns is kind of broken in the middle, because his horns are just these standard growing pointed type, the traditional devil horns, but one of them is the full 5 inches and has the point at the end. But his left horn is broken at the middle point, so the top of it is flat. It still looks like it's growing, but it's not growing to a point. It's just staying flat and broken looking, which is odd. Don't even
You,
remember how this happened, but hey, adds character.
mm, you mind if I sit next to you?
Oh, I don't mind at all. And even though his tail is no longer visible, because again, feather skirt, swan tail looking thing,
Mm-hmm.
he does adjust himself that way. There's room for Banner to sit.
She sits down next to him.
Also, you don't even need an insight check. You think he's glancing over the pretty part of the mirror to put off actually looking at the dang thing. Rather nice. Do you know where he found it?
Mm, no. He doesn't seem to know either. I found it on top of one of the bookcases when we were trying to
Oh,
look for clues to get to where he was.
hmm. Well, I suppose at least memory issues make sense with him. Don't know how old he is, but I mean, I've known some people who've lost a lot as they got older.
Mm.
Hmm. It
Do
is
you
rather nice, though.
do you look at the reflection?
He's he is putting off looking at it. He's you think he thinks he's being clever by asking about it and talking about it. He has not flipped it over to look. This really would sell for a pretty penny if he didn't want it. I mean, honestly. And he holds it up to look at it, has not looked at the actual glass side.
Do you want me to go first to see if it'll show something new?
Huh?
And you're
Oh,
looking.
no. I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. I'm fine. I'm fine. Fine. It's not going to show me anything bad. At least, not as bad as some of the things I've seen. It's fine. It's fine. He's just he's kind of it's sort of the way a kid is like trying to amp themselves up to take some meds, like Pepto-Bismol or something, and he's just like trying to do the countdown to turning it over. It's just like, okay, just 1, 2, and he's just carefully gonna flip it over, though he keeps his eyes closed at first, which is counterintuitive to the mirror, but for some reason he just does.
I think you'll need to open up your eyes to look at the mirror, dude.
And he just sort of slowly peeks them open, just glancing down.
Okay, so he's looking at the mirror, right?
Oh yeah, he's looking at it now. He's just looking at it very
Okay, so
uncertainly.
so I have something for you.
Oh, good, good.
Scratch. As you look at the mirror, you seem to be in a place you don't quite remember all that well. It looks cozy, warm, very warm. You seem to look like yourself, yet your design feels a bit different from how it is currently in your facial expression. You squint at yourself, your reflection seems to be staring at the mirror too. Or at a mirror too. Belle, are you ready to get to work, aren't you? Um, a voice calls out. Of course I am, your reflection replies. Belle, darling, you're going to you're going to do fine, okay? To be a card sharp, you need to plan carefully ahead and bet on it. So to speak, be the high roller of the room. And don't I know it? You are going to do swell. As Scratch's reflection ponders a bit, the voice comes on screen. A well-dressed object head with a six-headed six-sided dice for a head. With rounded cheeks, places his hand gently on his shoulders, looking at the reflection with him. You are gonna do great today, you hear? I have never seen you give up on anything. And you better believe that no matter where you are, I'll always be with you. And with that, the memory fades from the mirror.
I need to roll my charisma save for something. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. He thankfully resists the urge to cry. He's doing better than I am, at least.
No.
But at the first bit of progression, seeing the warm environment and seeing himself with this different style, you can kind of see the processing look on his face and the way the tension sort of falls, but not completely. Because while Vanier wasn't there for it, he had an inkling something was off about himself from an earlier event, namely the birthday blowout, where the Feywild didn't really know what to do with him appearance-wise in terms of showing his potential. So he just looked glitchy instead. But this looks coherent and decent and it's still scruffy. Not exactly that attractive, but it's not as weird as the rubber face. The eyes at least look the right proportion, and then he hears Bell, and you can see the way his ears turn toward the mirror. And just that sort of light bulb look in his eyes. And Darling, and you can see the face softens when he hears the word darling. And it just keeps softening as the memory progresses. The encouraging words, the hands on his shoulders, and then the figure that comes into view. Which I am going to have to make a different roll for. But I need to mute for a moment to ask the physical dice something first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I get to make 2d20 plus 2 instead. But the phrase about the card sharp was something he actually remembered earlier. He just didn't remember the context. It was encouraging, but only about as encouraging as a positive memory could be without any other substance to it. But here were the words fresh, here were the words being said, and here was this nicely dressed object head speaking sweet nothings, and you mother
No.
trucker at a traffic jam.
Oh my god. Holy shit!
On the one hand, I know I gotta stick to the narrative. I know I gotta. I know I gotta. I know I gotta. I'm not gonna re-roll that. I'm a strong man. I'm not gonna re-roll that. It would be unfair if I re-rolled that. But 2 threes? Really?
Holy shit!
I need to take a sip of tea for a moment. I don't want to. I don't want to lift my volume.
Holy shit!
Do you think there should be one reroll, or do we stick with that? Because that is
I say
painful.
reroll! I say reroll! You have
Okay.
not been getting good rolls this session, my friend.
You got 2 nat 20s and I got 2 5s in a row. If it gives me 2 more 5s, I'm going to die. Was going to expire on the spot.
There we
Oh yeah,
go.
that'll do it. And as he's sort of sitting there looking at it, emotionally speaking, thankfully, he does resist the urge to cry, though he's not sure why the instinct is there in the first place. That much of the memory hasn't come back, but I'll get to the table and what is relevant later. But he sits there just fixated, looking at this figure, and himself he recognizes. And do you see it as well, or is it just
I believe I can see
expression?
it as well because when we Vanya can see it as well because when during the Ollie actual episode when we first interacted with the mirror, it seems like we were able to see each other's reflection
So you
vision.
see this as well, but you notice the thing that felt off earlier. And you chose to look through the disguise instead of looking through him. But thanks to a timely poured bucket from a certain small ceramic headed child, his face went back to normal, but the rest of his art style does feel off. In the mirror, his art style is Warnian. He essentially looks like a sort of Looney Tunes devil that's just fuzzy and sort of rotund. But that's not the guy you see looking at the mirror. The face is correct, the colors are absent, but it's the style that's wrong. It's all rubbery and rounded and slimmed down and monochromatic. The gold in the yellow and black eyes is absent. There's this warm brown tone to the black fur that is completely missing from this color drain. Even his paws have lost the slightest tint to them. There's his face looks Warnian. That much has come back, but the rest of it looks off. And this is not a thing that you see normally. So I would say that does stick out like a sore thumb. At least seeing it in the mirror. Because
Mhm.
the mirror looks fine. Mirror looks normal. But he just kinda sits there and he hasn't said anything, but he's just staring at it all soft and silent. Kinda feels over part of the cracked mirror, and the reflection is still cracked. I doubt anything changes, but he kind of feels over his fuzzy face and just, huh, don't think I've ever heard anyone call me darling before. You don't need perception to notice his accent has slipped for a moment. And
From
then he
my
politely is going to hand the mirror to you and just sitting quiet.
okay. Vanya grabs the mirror. From my knowledge, it seems like it's only positive stuff. Thankfully.
Huh, would explain a lot. And he just sort of, you can see the way he tries to compose himself, but I'm not even rolling him deception. You saw, you
Yeah.
saw him. He's having a moment. Your turn.
Okay.
Your turn.
I don't know if it'll work again for me because I've only already looked in this mirror once, but let's see. Uh, Vanya looks at herself once more in the mirror.
Okay. As Vanir glances into the mirror again, it's the same place it showed before, at first. A small town, a farm. And on that farm, Vanir, or you suppose Ivy in this case, seems to be helping someone hold some boxes, carrying them from one side of the farm to the other. There's a man with shaggy blonde hair and a blue vest who talks to Ivy and is helping alongside her. They both continue to wander and do their chores when. I misread that sentence. They both continue to wander and do their daily chores when a farmer off screen shouts, Ivy! Harper! Come over here, please. That weird stuff is back again trying to eat up the crops. Ivy nods and places down the boxes, rushing over to help. Harper hesitates, yet follows along. And just like that, it fades.
You see Vanier's look of confusion, slightly.
I hope the microphone didn't cut out at any point, I swear to God.
No, no, it did not.
Good, good. I was
I
afraid it would
heard
if I lifted my voice.
I heard that very much so. But
And Scratch glances over. But continue.
she would have a bit of a confused look to her face this time around. It was certainly shorter than last time, but
But still positive, right? You said.
I'm not too sure about. I thought it was positive, but it didn't seem as if something big was going on. But
And he crosses his arms and just glances at the mirror, at the fading farm before it falls.
yeah,
Hmm. I mean, farm looks about as healthy as a farm should. It's a pretty good looking farm.
yeah. So that did confirm me since my name was Ivy. She scratches the back of her head.
I
The past
hmm.
reflection had a clearer view of my face, and an off-screen person was calling my name. So it said Ivy, so I'm guessing it's Ivy.
But you saw someone else there this time. Harper.
Eh, yeah, though I don't know who they are.
I mean, they look friendly. I mean, they
That's
looked friendly. I
that's
mean,
true.
I know I'm not a good judge on friends, but I mean, they were helping you out. Seemed to
That
look fine.
that's true. Hmm.
But then it mentions weird stuff trying to eat the crops. What's that
Yeah,
about?
I don't know.
I mean, I know something happened when I was very small, but it wasn't something eating the crops. That was just a plague breakout. That's that's odd. But it gives you something to look into. Maybe if you ask people around and see if there's any towns that dealt with that before, maybe someone will mention it.
Problem is, there's not much of a description to just thing in the fields.
Well, no, but I mean, if you ask someone about a farm that dealt with their crops being eaten, that's a good start.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but I wouldn't be surprised if people would go to the normal birds or rodents as the reason why. I'll have to see.
I was gonna roll an insight check on Vanier just to see if how Vanier's doing.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so insight at the moment is only +3. God bless. I'll take it. That's fine. A 14?
She is very like she has this sort of like vibe to her of like something feels off, but I can't put my finger on it, sort of deal.
And the way it looks on Scratch's face as he's processing this, you don't think he's far off from the same thought, because that is an odd thing for the memory to point out is weird stuff eating the crops. And while you don't know it, again, his only experience with things eating crops is the plague outbreak that happened when he was very small in the Luthbian Alliance. But that's a conversation presumably for later. He glances back at the mirror, then back at you, and goes, how about we possibly discuss these with Ollie when he gets back? If anybody's going to know places to look or possibly who to reach out to, I would assume Ollie might have a good resource.
That's true.
I mean, in your case, and I'm not sure that's applicable in my case.
Mm. And hey, at least we have. I have another name to look at in the sense of if they're still around, sort of deal, which
Hmm.
is
We
Harper.
do have a first name and not a last name, but I mean, Harper's not that common anyway. That might not be too difficult to look for.
That's true.
I'm still not used to someone calling me darling, though. That's hmm.
Because from my knowledge, everybody else who looked through this mirror had very positive, like, reflections in the sense of just them being younger.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah,
He
my, it's seen as positive in a sense, but the oddness of it is still weird.
true. But I mean, I would take most of it as positive in that it showed you interacting with a friend, just living life on a farm.
That's true.
But that is something to bring up to Ollie later. And if it is something strange, then he may know more about it. But
Yeah.
let's
So
try not to
well,
worry about that right now.
he seemed to be slightly confused when I first showed up at his door, mentioning about following a bird.
A bird?
Yeah, when I first stumbled upon the jungle, I was completely lost, and a crow or a raven happened to lead me here.
He gets a look in his eyes that tells you he's trying to analyze that more than you think. Just it's that sort of thoughtful thought of is that a normal raven or is that something magical that should be looked into? Just that it's like the look you get with those gifs of the numbers passing in front. He's just thinking, just like, hmm. Well,
I did tell
you're
him.
a oop,
I did tell him about that in sense of things. Also, it's good to know the mirror actually works multiple times.
yeah, yeah. Actually, that is rather nice. I mean, it saves me from getting memories back via terrible realistic nightmares. Those are the worst.
Hmm. Though we don't know how many uses we can pull off in the sense of each individual person.
Yeah,
If
that too.
so, at least for now, we know that we can use it twice now in the sense of things. So
Hmm.
possibly, and who knows, it might be a recharge system or something
It
along those
might.
lines.
That at least means I can have another look at it later.
That's
And
true.
he just sort of rubs the back of his, again, non existent neck with just one gloved hand. Hmm. I will say it is odd. Um, I hope I'm not being prejudiced in assuming you're a scarecrow of some kind.
No, I am, from my
Okay,
knowledge.
okay.
I've,
Um,
I think I've accidentally spooked one of the professors, like one of the more adult figures that walks.
I,
You know the owl,
uh,
the owl-looking, old man that
Professor
always.
Scrannery. Ah,
Yes,
yeah,
he when he first saw me, he seemed to be quite spooked. So,
of course. But, in my knowledge, again, mostly just from my childhood in a rural environment, scarecrows traditionally scare away ravens and crows from the crops, but you had one that was leading you, you said?
seems, yeah.
Odd. If I had any good resource to ask about that, I would recommend it, or I'd talk to them myself. But as it stands, all I've got is a bunch of inlaid dragon bone sticks, and also this. And he just reaches into his. He's gonna reach into the hyperspace. We have to know the detail. Oh, thank God! And he pulls up what appears to be this porcelain doll head. It's dingy, but it looks like it's been repainted recently. Like a restorative effort was made, so it looks nice again. Though the eyes feel like they watch as he turns it. But I mean, I'm not entirely certain how much she'd know, so I really wish I had more resources to assist you. Again, I've been suffering with the lack of memory myself, so it feels terrible that I can't help you out with yours.
I mean, in a way, I feel like we're both helping out each other in some sense. So, I mean, you're part of the EGAG thing, right?
For now, yes. And he just nods and he puts the doll head back.
So am I. So I wouldn't see it too much of an issue for us to help each other out when it can be.
That is true. Still, I just feel bad that I don't have the resources to assist you. It's just an itch in the back of my brain. Can't quite place it.
It seems like I didn't have much resources to start off with.
Same here. Just gives another shrug. I mean, you woke up in an abandoned town. I woke up in a perfectly populated town that tried to shoot me on sight. So, eh.
I accidentally scared some poor traveler. That's how I got the hat.
Uh, that's why I got the whole disguise going. Nobody seems to like my face, so the swan seems to do rather nicely. And he just goes right back to that chipper bit as he just playfully puts the beak on and pretends to be all cutesy and nice.
I had to take some hay and sew it to the hat so I can hide the missing eye portion of my head.
Mhm. He, I'm gonna roll him something real quick. You don't have to pay attention. It's just a little, just a little. You know what? Since I want to keep the roll secret, I'm gonna roll the physical dice.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute for a moment. And okay, so I asked the little secret question to the physical dice so that Dice Parser wouldn't have it recorded for reasons. But there's a moment that he's glancing over as Vanier has put on the hat and everything and is,
Mhm.
just adjusting it and mentions all the hay and of course there was the reflection to go by and what Vanier has said. And he gets a thought and he sort of glances for a moment at something before glancing back to Vanier and going, "If you wanted me to, I am actually quite talented with cloth and toy restoration. I could maybe get some material to try and help this, maybe, if you wanted me to." And he just would very politely but vaguely gesture to the missing part of the face.
Uh, I, if you want to try, I guess, sure.
Well, I'm mostly asking because some people are, of course, more comfortable with having these differences in their appearance as opposed to how they looked before. I mean, one of the boys wanted to
Truth,
keep a couple of the cracks, but mm,
truthfully, I think I'm gonna be looking different either way because of how my eyes look now.
fair enough. Just, I have some experience with patching up cloth and also fixing up toys. Both was a necessity and a hobby of mine when I was younger.
Plus, it
You
gives a good chance of seeing if my whole situation can get repaired.
Hmm,
Mm.
that too. Though that's maybe something else we could ask Ollie about, but I could certainly try and find some non-magical and magical fabric to help. I mean, at least I
Mm.
don't have to sew together mesh or anything. Ugh, no experience there.
Yeah.
And he sticks his tongue out, and you note that it is forked. Don't even need the perception check. It's just forked. But I mean, well, it's been a bit since I've patched up a scarecrow per se. I mostly work in clothing and smaller toys. If you would like me to, I would still at least like to see if I could find the materials to help with that.
Yeah, it's up to you on that front. I don't want to push anything onto anyone else, truthfully.
Oh, you wouldn't be pushing anything onto me. I have nothing to do. I'm dying for something to do, honestly.
If that's the case, you're free to welcome to and see if this works in the sense of like testing it out at least. Again, I don't know if even
And
I can fix my whole hole in the head situation.
that is true, but there's always a way to find out. And while
Yeah,
he's just smiling and nodding at this, roll me a perception check.
sure.
It's a pretty decent DC, so if you roll another nat 20, I'm gonna laugh. Roll another nat 20. Roll another nat 20. I
So
dare you.
perception
Perception.
16.
Not bad. That's not another nat 20, but that's not bad. And 15 was the one you had to beat. As he's just nodding along with this, you hear only the slightest thing. And it's from the same space that he put the porcelain doll head back. It's a ring bell and a very, very tiny sound that you can't understand any words from, but something clearly was said there. And he subtly tries to pat that hammer space pocket to make it quiet before just resuming his posture.
You see Vanyard tilt their head slightly to that in like, okay, what's up with that toy you pulled out a little
What?
earlier?
What?
she she doesn't say it, but she has an expression on her face, kind of like, okay,
Ah.
what was that?
And he's just got this innocent look that I'm gonna roll him deception because he's got a look of what was what? +6. At least it's better than Roguefort's -1. I say that, let me knock on wood real quick. You would have to insight check.
Insight check?
Yeah. 17 to beat.
No. Okay.
He looks completely innocent on the matter, and it's just he's also tilted his head in the similar way an animal would be mimicking somebody else. So he's tilted it the same direction as you, just trying to mirror it. You're not sure if it's a conscious decision or not, but he just looks curious. Something the matter?
I'm fine. Just heard that I heard something. Then again, don't know if I'm fucking insane or not.
Could you repeat that bit?
No, she's fucking the fun case of losing your shit over stuff, especially in a house full of curse items,
Ah.
curse and haunted items. So
Well, I can assure you, if you happen to hear anything cursed or haunted speak up, you can tell me first, and I'll burn it to a crisp. I've at least noticed I'm good at burning things, but I don't really want to burn the house. I would like to explore, though. He passes just a slight sly look to the door, just like, huh, hmm.
I can show you around most of the house if you want. Well, there's certain areas I cannot show you, especially since Ollie has told me not to go in there for safety reasons.
He gets a brief look that almost goes, oh, somewhere restricted? Just, it's that brief look of, oh, whoa, what's this? But He tones it back down to the obedient look of, some places are restricted. That's fine. I'm not interested. It's fine. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Play it cool. I'm not interested. I would love a tour, actually. Though, considering how large this place is, I imagine it might be exhausting to tour the whole thing.
Hmm.
And also, if I toured too much of it, I might. Hmm.
You want to take us do little spurts then, in a sense
A,
of little here and there areas before?
a little here and there, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I can assume Mr. Ollie didn't exactly get his wealth from any unsavory means. At least I would hope.
No, not that I know of. He's pretty chill. I mean, the only unsavory thing was his goddamn ex.
Yeah, I can understand that. Since I haven't seen nor heard anything about it, though, I can assume that's dealt with. So good for him.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
no,
I
I
hear he's.
I uh, I fucking punched her in the face one time.
Oh, did you? He actually perks up at this.
Yeah, didn't know it was his ex during the time, but a ghost was being a pester and ended up uppercutting it at one point.
It- His ex was a ghost?
Yeah,
Oh, dear, I'm terribly sorry he had to deal with that. That's the worst kind. Ugh.
he even made a mess of the whole house by shambling all the rooms. We were literally in a maze of his own house.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I'm
we were
glad you
trying to
got rid of them then.
Yeah, we were trying to get to the attic where he was, and so was his ex, so that was fun trying to go through all sorts of rooms, and next thing we know, it just randomizes the room next each time he closes the door.
Huh. I remember there was one place that I'd found at one point that was someone had commissioned a manor that consistently changed rooms and had staircases going nowhere in particular. It was a fun explorative romp, but I can't imagine poor old Ollie having to deal with the house doing that. Ugh.
Yeah, especially since it was always if we just went into a room, shut the door, we open a door again, the room would not be it's like the room next to us that we were once in would change.
Imagine that must have been terrible if one of you needed to use the restroom. But yeah, spurts of looking around the place would be fine. The only reason I say not all at once is I have I do not have the fondest view of the rich, and while I do like Ollie for his personality, I'm afraid if I see too much of the house at once, my brain's just going to bunch it in as ugh, well, rich person
uh
architecture.
Well, funny thing is, most of his stuff, from my understanding, is stuff he's gotten on his ventures. He didn't really buy anything.
He gets a look of understanding, though he I'm gonna roll to see if he could actually successfully mutter under his breath or if he would actually overhear it. So
Say,
that's a +3. God bless your soul. Oh, now it's a decent one. Yeah, it just
yeah,
you
he
you can
Vanier
see
would
the way
not
it's,
catch.
you first, sorry.
Vanier would not catch that whatsoever. That's a
Yeah, it's
21.
just you could see the way his mouth, and after the playful bit, he would have taken the beak back off, but you could see the way his fuzzy, crooked little mouth like moves almost like one of those sine waves as it's just muttering a bit, but you don't hear anything. Not a goddamn thing. It just sounds like cartoon grumble grumble grumble. And then he just sort of shakes it off.
Vanier actually has been holding onto the mirror the whole time, so she actually gets up to place the mirror back onto the table where she found it.
And
Uh,
he does watch this time as you put it away. He doesn't look away this time.
So I can probably show you like, I mean, you've seen the living room already, unless you want to explore it a little bit more. Um, I'll just like walk you through like one or two rooms, and that'd be it for today. I'm guessing. Oh, I still need to get you like a pen or paper in the sense of like if you have anything to tell Ollie.
Oh, I have some right here. Excuse me. Hammer space again. 2d10. That is D20. We need 2D10. I don't know why I typed D20 instead of 2D10. Just, yes, this is the appropriate number. Okay, both of those were sorted. And yeah, he just casually reaches into the breast pocket of the vest, pulls up a pad of paper, and pulls up a pen, clicks it up, and just quietly walks over to a table and just starts writing on it. Do you want me to put anything for you or just get you a separate note?
I can easily tell him on my own, since I kind of live here.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, he's been letting me stay in one of the guest rooms.
Oh, that's rather nice. I've mostly been staying in the treehouse.
Yeah, I've been staying here before he built the treehouse, so.
Is it nice? Is it air conditioned?
Vania kind of gestured to herself in the sense of, I'm not really that up for like temperature, seeing how I'm Scarecrow.
His question still seems to stand. He still has that look. He would not have asked the question if he wasn't wanting the answer, even if Vanier's a scarecrow. It's just like, is it air conditioned? Because this place is huge.
I would think so, but I don't notice.
Understood. I'll have to ask him about it in spare time. Also, I would ask to sleep here as well, but I'm afraid if I slept here for more than a night, I would get a little too curious for my own good. He just is trying not to glance around the room, but it's clear that he does indeed have that instinct of, ooh, shiny.
Vanier walks up and pats him on the back. Which, remind you, Vanier has really big fucking hands.
Yeah, there's a moment, even without meaning to be intimidating, if he remembered fully who he was, he would not have flinched at this, but there is a brief flinch with the pad, but once he feels how soft it is, the flinch is gone. It's just that look of, oh god, big claw, and then it's just a pat and it goes, ah. Oh,
Vanier,
right! And he darts over to the table, picks up his beak, puts it back on.
Vanier raises up a hand, realizing he flinches, goes, Scarf hands.
He turns over and he's got the beak back on, so the beak moves and looks like a normal mouth. But with your net 20 from earlier, you still see where the invisible thread goes into his fur.
Mm.
Or is that no, you think it's fur. It's gotta be fur. Totally. And just is I mean, I could see that it's just the very big scarf.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it tends to poof out every time I wear a scarf. That's the odd thing.
It does.
Yeah, like if hold on, Vanier, um, kind of grabs her on like a little scarf and pulls, and as soon as he pulls, you see her arms just drop, and it turns into a normal scarf, and it's just on the floor around her.
He gets that feline look of interest, like you just dangled a toy in front of him. Does it just do that with any scarf, or is it just that one?
I think it's any scarf, really.
He reaches immediately back into his hammer space. Oh, thank God. And he does indeed actually pull up a. Now, this scarf looks a little older, but it actually doesn't look that bad. It just looks a little weather worn. This
Mhm.
is one of those big, nice, fluffy muffler type scarves that you would wear for like incredibly cold winter.
Okay.
And he just holds it up. And he sort of just he walks over, but the way his legs move and you could hear the tiny little ting 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 is he just carefully tiptoes over. Just the excited little titty 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 titty. It holds it out. Do I put it on you or
Yeah,
do
just wrap it
you?
around the neck.
Oh, okay. See, this was part of one of my earlier disguises, and as he's explaining this, he is carefully wrapping it around the lower half of your face
You
as
would
he moves.
actually see, due to the fact that the scarf is now properly off, you can actually see her neck properly, which is seemingly made out of wood.
He wouldn't comment on it. He's seen weirder.
But
But as he's explaining, just See, it used to be part of my disguise when I was disguised as a bear. I had a pair of ears, I had a cap, but it was more of a knit cap. It had the pom-poms and
As you
everything.
do that, you see the ends of the scarf actually just poof out to become a new set of pair of hands.
I like to imagine these are like big poofy bear paws because because of the fluffy winter scarf look.
Yep.
And he notices that, and he has a physical look like he's trying to restrain the reaction of "aw, cute," like he's trying to remain composed.
She,
That
you see, Vanier kind of like takes a moment to look at her new hands in the sense of the scarf, and comments, "Huh, it didn't look like thought they would look more bear-like." Huh.
is a very charming winter scarf.
You good?
Charming, that's the word for it. No, it's fine, I just think it's as he about says cute, he visibly almost gags. It's
she
a
she goes to reach down for the scarf that she took off in the sense of her normal scarf.
it might be that the shape of it changes depending on the scarf, maybe?
Poss- Possibly, or you said this thing was part of a bear disguise as well.
Yes, but it was still a winter scarf that I purloined for it, so to speak.
Hmm.
It itself wasn't sold as part of the costume, but I used it for the disguise. I
It could be the
think
history of it as well. Who knows?
could be. Uh, would you like to see, actually? I know the weather's toasty, but I can at least show it for a moment if you want.
I mean, if you want to, I'm not really pushing you if you don't want to because of the weather.
I can at least show you the top pieces.
Okay.
And it just reaches in.
I
At
like
least,
how this is just turning into wholesome, just showing off abilities.
yeah, yeah, no, just as soon as he saw you could do that, you just entertained the inner kitten of, ooh, which is definitely more wholesome than entertaining his thought of, ooh, I want to explore and pilfer around this house at my whim. Because not that Vanier knows it, but seeing as he was raised for a while by a family of cat burglars, and his mom was an esteemed cat burglar, his first instinct on rich houses is just, oh, where's the nicest shit to steal? Not that he would directly steal from Ollie, but at the same time, it's a big house. He might not miss some small things, maybe. So this is
But the
definitely more
problem is, Vanier has warned him. Curse stuff, which is a possibility in this said house. So that's the funny thing as well. You there? Oh, Mikey?
I'm sorry, I have to be muted for a moment. My brother's in here.
Ah, okay.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. My brother slipped in to show me a new AD&D monster manual he got. He's giving it to a different town here soon, but he wanted me to have a look at it. Sorry about that.
Ah,
Repeat what you said earlier. Before I disappeared. Do you remember what you said before I
Oh,
AFK'd, or
oh fuck! My mind just went blank as fuck.
it? It's okay. Uh, you were in. As I was saying, you were indulging the more wholesome of his curiosities rather than look around the house and touch what might be. And you were also mentioning that Vanier did warn him on some things being cursed.
Yeah, basically.
Though you do still have that you still have that check from earlier where you realized he did recall something about the Uno deck and just hasn't said anything about it. But thankfully, his search into hammer space is fine, and he pulls up what appears to be it's a fluffy and rather worn out looking pom pom hat. You know, like the kind you'd wear in the snow.
Hmm.
And he just briefly lowers the beak for a moment, and he just picks it up and he tucks it over his horns and tucks his ears into it, just tucks it over his head. And as he does, he sort of reaches into it, and you realize part of it was kind of sunken in for the way it was scrunched into his hammer space. And it appears to have two stuffed bear ears on it, which he just "Ploink," pulls up. And he imitates wrapping your scarf around it, though he doesn't actually touch your scarf, and he just sort of and he actually changes his bodily posture to where you imagine if there was other stuff to it, yeah, it would look like a more heavy set figure. But you
Huh.
just see the cute hat with the ears.
Okay.
Used to disguise myself as a black bear toon for a bit. Of course, I had to really change my voice. I haven't touched that in a bit. Didn't really have a voice to begin with, though. It was more just gruffs and grumbles and growls, which I used to be able to do a bit better, but he just
Hmm,
waves a hand.
that's
I even
fair.
had these fluffy mittens that looked a little bit like they had paws in them, but didn't. Very warm, very nice. And he just pwing, pops the hat back off, stuffs it back in hyperspace. Yes, honey? Yeah? Yeah?
Cat.
Yeah, that is a if it's catching her voice, that is indeed my lovely cat Sassy. She is a long hair with a very scratchy, broken record kind of voice.
Your cat's not being picked up on the mic, but I instantly picked up on the fact that you're talking to a cat because of how you're responding.
Yeah. Yeah, just friends have poked fun at the fact that my tone either goes from normal to kindergarten teacher, even though I've never taught kindergarten, or talking to pet. Honey, do you want to go outside? Do you want to go back to the living room? Yeah, maybe? Or do you just want attention from me? Because I can't give it at the moment. Your tail's twitchy, though. What?
Oh, Vanier would kind of look at the current scarf hands and go, "Do you want this back?"
Um, honestly, you can keep it if you want. I can just get another scarf for it.
You
And
sure?
besides, the bear paws do look pretty. And again, with that gagging face as soon as he tries to say cute. Again, since his features are partly feline, you can see the way the jaw moves, almost like a hair bubble, where it's just like it's quite endearing. So much so I might find it unbearable to speak about further. Finger
Fair
guns.
enough.
Sweetie, are you sure you don't? Excuse me just a minute. Okay, I'm
Well,
back. Cat
Oh
is
god.
Cat has been evacuated from the room and sent back to socialize.
I'm
So, oh,
guessing I'm guessing we're gonna just continue having this cute little back and forthness for a bit.
a little bit, yeah. Though I will say, since I shared the bit with you, I'm at least gonna copy and paste the part that Ike gave me. That way you can have it in your notes for reference.
I'll send it to my half to you as well.
All
So
right, give me just a minute. So
I'm
I'm just
start
putting this down that way you can write it down for proper detail. So
mm, yeah. I'm starting to lose my spoons a little bit at the tail end of this. So I
okay,
apologize.
it's okay. I imagine not long after the back and forth, we can probably end it off when the tour starts and just imply that they did
Yeah.
a little bit of a tour, maybe had some tea or coffee.
Okay. But mm,
There we go. Zapped that to your location.
I'll end recording, but that is the Toonkind FES. I'll see you
Mm-hmm.
guys next time.
It was fun having you. Do remember to
Uh,
take care of yourselves, to stay hydrated, keep wearing your masks, and keep maintaining that distance. And we'll see you again next time as we end
bye.
off on a little bit of easy banter and a little bit of touring to distract a certain fuzzy buddy from possibly pickpocketing from a rich, possibly cursed old man. Bye bye!
Bye.